welcome back to Cheers and Jeers. We just watched 1985's The Stuff. If you've ever wondered what a horror movie would be like if the bad guy weren't a vampire or a werewolf or a zombie, but if the bad guy was a carton of yogurt, then you need to see The Stuff. Now this has got to be one of the goofiest horror movies I've ever seen in my whole life. You've got this white goofy stuff that is just looks like either ice cream, Cool Whip,
they
yogurt.
Call it snow. In the beginning, they think it's snow. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the bad guy throughout the whole movie, and somehow they make a whole movie out of that. I mean,
pretty much.
It starts out, it looks like, I think he's like a night watchman or a security guard or something at this, looks like an old rail yard or mine or something.
Yeah.
And it's winter and there's snow all over the ground. But he comes across this little spot that's like gurgling this pasty yogurt looking stuff.
Yeah.
So, the security guard then immediately proceeds to put his fingers down and take a big scoop of this random, weird, suspicious stuff and shove it right in his mouth.
That's his way to test it out. Just go ahead and...
Because that's a normal thing to do.
Boy, this is good. It could be anything.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, about the only thing in nature that is that color and consistency is bird poo.
Yeah, right.
But nevertheless, what's this?
It just happens to be an addictive yogurt that takes over your brain.
So somebody else walks up and they both start having some and then they immediately jump cut to must be months down the road or something, because instantly in the next scene this stuff is a commercial product that's in everybody's grocery stores and refrigerators and whatnot. So at that point, you kind of just got to connect the dots and put two and two together, and I guess they just started selling this stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But the next scene we see, it's this average suburban family, and you got this like kid, looks like 10 or 11 years old, and he's sitting there in his bedroom at, kind of can't get to sleep because, like, bugs are biting him.
Yeah.
And he like swats a couple mosquitoes, and these bugs are really pestering him. And so, finally, he's had enough. And so he gets up, and he walks over 2 feet to his windows, which are wide open with no screens on them, and he shuts them. Why did he have his windows wide open with no screens?
Of course you're going to get mosquitoes.
Why are all these mosquitoes
sleeping.
bothering me?
Oh, boy.
Like, what kind of writing is this? I've never seen a bedroom window with no screens in my life. So all that work made him really hungry, I guess, or getting bit by the mosquitoes, and so he decides to go down and get a bite to eat out of the fridge. And he opens up the fridge, and there's one of these canisters of brand name The Stuff, filled with this white creamy stuff that we saw the security guard discovering. Only thing is, it's spilled over on its side, and it's moving around like it's got a mind of its own, and and so the kid gets all freaked out, and he shuts the door, and then all of a sudden, his dad comes down, and
dun, dun, dun. You're in trouble.
And I think maybe things were different back then, but not that different, because like we lived through that era, and
There was some adults like that back then.
But I never got
Parents.
walloped just because I was hungry and opened the fridge. This dad comes into the kitchen, and he's like, "What are you doing?" It's like, "But Dad, I couldn't sleep. I was hungry." And all of a sudden, out of nowhere comes the hand, smack on the butt. And it's like, "What? This is not normal parenting."
No, it was pretty funny. Yeah. Oh boy.
And so then he's telling his dad, but Dad, the yogurt was moving. Well, believe it or not, the dad didn't buy that story.
Oh, yeah.
And so then the next thing we see is this movie jumps around a lot, and like none of this stuff seems to have much to do with the previous scene. Like we saw this security guard, and all of a sudden we see the kid, and all of a sudden now we're cutting to a bunch of businessmen on a yacht. It's like, okay, this is a whole nother story thread. So we got these businessmen that are on the yacht, and it turns out they're like the heads of all the ice cream companies, and they want to find out what's with this new product called The Stuff and how come it's stealing all their market share away from them, and so they're gonna hire this corporate spy who is like an ex-FBI agent, and now he's like this undercover private investigator or something.
Man, this guy is hilarious. He is just, the way he comes across, he's just right up in their face and stuff, and just really boasting. He has such an ego and stuff. So he's saying, you know why they call me Mo? Because when people give me money, I always want Mo. Just like that. It's like, oh boy.
And he comes in and he's introducing himself to these like 8 or 9 businessmen on this yacht, and he like comments on each one of them having a sweaty palm, like as he's going around shaking hands, and it like doesn't make any sense. It's weird. Like, why does he keep saying that? It's like, here's a sweaty palm, here's a sweaty palm, and another sweaty palm. It's like, what is this dialogue all about? This doesn't make any sense.
Is that such an odd thing to have someone have a sweaty palm? Mm-hmm. Oh boy.
And I mean, the guy's got an accent that I can't quite place.
All right.
It doesn't sound like a southern accent. What it sounds like is someone trying to do a poor imitation of a southern accent.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. He was doing his best job of getting that accent.
Mm-hmm. I think they would have been better off if the actor can't pull off a legit sounding accent, just have him talk in his own voice.
Right, so you can do it right.
That's what they did in, I forget the name of it. Was it Valkyrie? I don't know. There was a movie where Tom Cruise was playing a German soldier, and back in the World War II era, and every character in the movie talked with a heavy German accent. Obviously, it's set in Germany. These are supposed to be Germans, except for Tom Cruise. He just spoke in his normal voice, which was probably the right decision, because I bet you they tried to have him imitate a German accent and he couldn't pull it off, and it probably sounded worse than doing nothing.
That's what I think. It probably didn't sound too good. How much he tried, it probably didn't work for him.
Yep. But yeah, so just a bad accent could just distract you from the whole movie.
Yeah.
So then after we're introduced to Mr. Mo Rutherford, then we cut back to the kid again. And now this kid's freaking out because his family's eating this stuff for breakfast and for dinner, and they all start acting like really Stepford weird, just all obsessed with it, like they're in a cult. Yeah. And they're trying to get him to eat it, and so he goes and berserk in a supermarket. Yeah,
the supermarket scene was awesome, man. I really loved seeing that over and over, just seeing all that stuff coming down. Wow, he really that was a great scene.
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing I noticed at the beginning of the supermarket scene, see, he goes in there and he sees all these packages of this stuff, and he's freaking out, and he goes berserk and he starts destroying them all. But before he does that, the very first thing, right before he gets triggered, there's this mom and a kid, the kid in the shopping cart, sitting up in the kid part of the shopping cart, and the mom's picking a couple of groceries off the shelf, and the kid has one of these canisters of the stuff open, and he's eating it as she's shopping. And I'm thinking, well, that's not normal, whether it's the stuff or whether it's any food product. Everybody knows you don't eat your food while you're shopping. You buy your food, you take it home and eat it. Why is the kid eating right there in the shopping cart?
Yeah, it's a funny thing, and boy, Now that mom was not happy when he took that yogurt and put it on the ground.
No, he grabs it right out of the kid's hand, just like the proverbial saying, taking candy from a baby. He literally grabbed the stuff from the baby, and the kid's like, ah, and mom's like, what do you think you're doing? And I mean, he didn't say it, but his actions said, you ain't seen nothing yet. Because oh boy, did he go on a rampage! Like hundreds and hundreds of those cans, he just knocking off the shelf, and then you see the scene. All of a sudden, it cuts to the scene of like a couple of diligent little grocery store workers, and they're stacking up these canisters of the stuff in this big pyramid. Now, for future reference, anytime you're watching a movie, and whether it's yogurt canisters or beer cans or anything else, if you see somebody very carefully stacking some bunch of stuff up into a big tall pyramid, it ain't gonna stay stacked.
Yeah, the next scene coming up, that thing's coming down.
And sure enough, he knocks them all down, and we got our payoff. So he gets taken home, and I'm sure he gets a walloping from the dad, because if going for a midnight snack gets you a spanking, I'm sure trash at a grocery store gets you a spanking. So the kid finally realizes that his parents and older brother are scheming to try to get him to eat this stuff, and he's like, well, I'll just get him off my back by pretending. And so, so he takes the canister, and he runs into the bathroom, and he dumps it all out into the toilet, and then of course it's like moving in the toilet like it's trying to get out, and then so he like quick flushes it, and so now if you're gonna fake eating this stuff, maybe I'd go for some Cool Whip,
something edible.
Maybe I'd go for some ice cream. I don't know, something. Nope. He fills that canister up with shaving cream, and then he goes probably marching downstairs and to the kitchen table where his family is, and they're all looking at him, and they're like, "Are you part of the team yet?" And he just starts taking spoonfuls of shaving cream and just eating it, and you can see his face is starting to turn a little bit. And
this ain't that good.
This is gross. So he skedaddles out of there. Does he skedaddle out of there with the canister in hand? No. He leaves it set right on the table, and sure enough, his very suspicious dad quickly realizes they've been had and the gig is up, and so they start chasing him. And right in the nick of time, and I'm one of these coincidental timing things that always happen in movies, Mo Rutherford just pulls right up into his driveway. Get in, kid! And so he jumps in the car with him, and perfectly saves the day right when he needed to be there.
Yeah, they made that work out just perfect.
And his thank you is the kid immediately throws up in his back seat because he ate a bunch of shaving cream.
So those two joined forces at that time in the movie, and that's interesting to see. Because up to that point, the kid was pretty much on his own, and everybody was against him, his family and everything. So,
and you got the private investigator, Mo Rutherford, who's supposed to be he's been hired by the ice cream companies to kind of go undercover and find the secret of the stuff. And so he starts poking around with some of their employees and at the offices and whatnot. But for some reason he keeps giving his real name, which never struck me as being all that undercover. You'd think he'd at least make up a cover name or something.
Or just give out your first name. He tells him his whole name.
Yeah. But we got this really bizarre scene where he shows up at this guy's house, who's I think an ex-employee of the company or something, and he's trying to fish around for information, and the guy seems all really nervous, and his dog is there and acting really weird, and he keeps giving like weird nervous glances at his dog, and so then eventually Mo leaves, but then you got this really bizarre scene where this dude's dog is chasing him around the house, and
oh right.
And then he's like, I'm gonna call for help. And so the guy goes and he grabs the phone and he starts dialing the phone to call somebody. And the dog goes and pulls the phone cord out of the wall.
His own dog, you know.
The dog pulls the phone cord out of the wall because the dog understands what a telephone is and that a telephone might be used to call help and that the way to disable a telephone is to remove the cord from the wall. The dog knows all this.
It's funny how that worked out.
And then if that's not weird enough, then the dog proceeds to knock the owner down and puke in his mouth. And
oh yeah, there was all that white stuff. Yeah.
Apparently that's what this stuff does if you eat enough of it. Eventually your mouth just opens like massively, and in a really disgusting manner all the white stuff comes back out and causes more havoc.
Lots of white projectiles coming out.
So then we cut again, and Mo Rutherford is going down to south to Georgia or somewhere, and trying to get to the bottom of the mystery. And he stops into a gas station, right? And this is this abandoned town where he eventually meets the chocolate chip guy, and
Chocolate Chip Charlie, yeah. Boy, what a character, man. He really made that movie.
But he walks into this dilapidated old gas station, and there's some sort of conversation about washing your hands. Like, don't you want to go in the bathroom and wash your hands? No. I got a new towel. I'm like, why does the guy add that? Why does he add I got a new towel?
Yeah.
But, I mean, so far, now we're about a half hour into the movie at this point, when he's at the gas station. Because I looked at the time, and I'm thinking, so far not a whole lot's happened. And I mean, we're just meandering around in the storytelling. We're talking to some rich guys on a yacht for a while. We're doing this and doing that, and it's still kind of waiting for it to get going a little bit. And that's when Chocolate Chip Charlie comes in.
Yeah, it's best scene in the movie. Hopefully we can get it up here so you can see it. But it's so he gets another person in the movie into a room or something and corners him, and his mouth comes all the way down like the dog. Mm-hmm. But boy, what a scene! It's something you can't unsee.
Dude, and
oh my gosh!
And seeing that when you're a little kid was pretty freaking
traumatizing. Creepy. It is.
And I gotta say,
nightmares over that, definitely.
The special effects in this movie were not exactly top tier. It was a fairly low budget film. Like, they spent $1.7 million on this movie, and that's just a couple years prior, Superman 3 came out, and they spent nearly $40 million on that. So I mean, just a tiny fraction. So they didn't have much on the special effects, but what they did spend, they made a few nightmares with. Because those freaking mouths coming open and stuff. I mean, yeah, as a kid, that kind of traumatized you. That was gross.
Yeah, definitely. Those things are the ones you never forget.
Mm-hmm. and so then you got the two guys. You got Mo and you got the Chocolate Chip Charlie, who keeps going on about his hands. My hands are registered as lethal weapons and whatnot. Yeah. And then some of the yogurt people start chasing him. Because you eat enough of this stuff and it like takes over your brain and you're kind of like, hypnotized by it or something. So they start chasing him, but as soon as they hit him, the yogurt people like crack open. Like Chocolate Chip Charlie, he like punches one of the guys in the face and it just knocks a big hole in his face and then a bunch of yogurt starts coming out.
Yeah,
it's just like
didn't make much sense. I didn't. Yeah,
I didn't get that either. They didn't explain that a whole lot.
No.
But yeah, it's pretty weird. So then they're trying to track this stuff back to its origin, and there's a big factory where they think they make it all, but they don't make it. They just package it because they're pumping it out of the ground, and I mean, you see big vats of this stuff, and then these blobs are kind of like emerging from it and it's kind of swimming around and stuff and chasing people, and there's a scene where they're trying to sneak in to that facility, and they got the kid with them, and the kid is all of a sudden it's like someone's gonna spot him, and so he goes to hide. Where does he hide? He jumps into the back of a tanker truck. Well, it's almost like I could see where this writing is gonna go, but I won't spoil it for you.
A tanker truck that is used to fill with stuff.
Yep.
I wonder what's gonna happen to that poor kid.
And so he goes and he hides inside of it. And then a worker just absentmindedly goes and closes the lid on him, so he's latched in there and he can't get out. But not to worry, nothing bad's gonna happen. So then, lo and behold, somebody starts filling the truck, and you got a hose hooked up to it, and it starts filling up with this stuff. And he's like, ah.
Yeah.
And then out of all those trucks there, Mo needs to make a quick getaway, and so he hijacks a truck. Well, he happens to hijack that exact same truck that the kid's stuck in the back of, fortunately. So he rescues him and saves the day. And they he had set a few little bombs that blew up some of their mining where they were mining this stuff from. And but they didn't really quite finish off the operation. They're like, oh, well, that won't take them long to dig out of, and if only we had some way to shut them down permanently. And then Mo's like, oh, well, I happen to know a guy who lives around here who keeps his own personal private army at his house. Really? You're gonna like win the Lazy Writing of the Year award here? Nobody just keeps a private army at their house, but sure enough, couldn't have been but like a half hour, and then there's this guy that lives in a castle, and that has his own private militia of like 100 guys, like right there, all with their rifles and everything, and they just quick explain the situation to him. He's like, "Oh, I got your back." Like, okay.
It totally takes over, yeah.
Yeah, this isn't far-fetched at all. So if only we had a way to get the word out to people. Oh, turns out this guy that has his private army hanging around his house just waiting to help you. Oh, yeah, he owns a couple radio stations too. Oh, okay, cool.
That's exactly what we need to do. Oh, boy. Oh.
So, to get long story short, the army goes and they blow up the bad guys and save the day. And at the end, we really kind of never get much explanation for what this stuff actually is. They just they blew it up in the end, and that's about it.
Yeah, there could have been a sequel or something. There really wasn't much explanation. Even though it's a grade B movie, some of those are the ones I really like. So I would give it probably an 8. A normal, someone that didn't think it was their favorite probably would give it a 6 or something because of the low quality. But yeah.
Well, it's certainly not going to win any Oscars, and I'm pretty sure. No. I'm pretty sure it didn't.
That was like a cult classic.
But yeah, it's campy. It's a cult classic, and it's more of a laugh at it rather than a laugh with it sort of movie. But yeah, I'd give it at least a 7 because it's amusing. You don't get bored watching it. It's you always keep wondering, well, how are they going to top this with ridiculousness, and somehow they manage to. So go see it. I'd recommend it.
I think they're both on Tubi too, aren't they?
Yep. You wanna watch it? It's on streaming for free right now, at least as of the date of recording this on the Tubi channel. You can find it. So check it out, and if you want to let us know what you rate it, leave a 1 to 10 rating in the comments, or any other comments you got about the movie that we might have missed. And until next time, keep cheering and jeering.